can't wait to watch the Bulls game on my new TV. I knew it. Okay, move boys. Here we go. Bulls.
Oh yeah. No, I like that. Adam Levine has a lot of good ones too. He had talking about Compton's finest when DeRozan won the daggers yesterday in Toronto. So there's a lot of going like back and forth between those two, and they're excited, like you said, to call games because the team is actually good, man.
It's right. It's crazy to see. Like I said,
one word to describe the first week of the season. How would you sum that up? Give me one.
Proud. The word I got is proud because it's like this team has been the laughing stock for how many years? The Bulls are in the butt of every joke you could think of, and they came out, 4-0 in the preseason, right?
Right. Yeah.
And what was everybody saying? Oh, it's just preseason. Oh, they only played the Cavs. The excuse this, excuse that. 4-0 in the regular season too now. Best in the NBA. Now, granted, right, they haven't played anybody, quote unquote, yet, or let's just say even fully healthy squads, but hey, they're taking care of who's in front of them. They can't be any better than their record right now. You know what I mean? So
exactly. And that's what we're talking about in the first episode. What would they do in terms of taking care of these games they're supposed to take care of?
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned, Detroit didn't have Cade both times, and obviously the Pelicans didn't have Zion. The Raptors don't have Pascal. I mean, you're facing all these teams that are up and comers, quote unquote, anyway, and they don't have key pieces. Mm-hmm. These are games you can't lose. Doesn't matter if the team is just assembled. Doesn't matter if there's adversity faced during the game, like we saw in Toronto and Detroit when they blew a couple big leads.
Yep.
But hanging on to win. The Bulls that game might be lost last year. We saw that with OKC where they were up on them, I think, twice last year and lost both of those games. And just things like that where there was a lack of a closer or just a lack of execution where they couldn't find a way to just finish the game, really. And the fact that they came away with, like you said, four victories and they're beating who's in front of them. So the real test is going to come this next stretch. We see the next 13 games. Either they made the playoffs last year or they were the Warriors, which basically means they made the playoffs, but they didn't because of the playoffs. So it's a lot of good teams, and they're off to a 4-0, 3-0 starter. I think 4-0 now.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how the Bulls handle this next stretch of games. But like you said, I'm kind of proud. I would say proud too. That's probably the closest word I would use as well, just because of how they've handled the first part of the season.
Yeah, and I feel like the proud where that's coming from as well is like the maturity level. Like you can see the difference, and I kind of wrote about this in the recap for Detroit, but you can see the difference with the presence that DeRozan brings, right? Like even like, and I talked about this in the recap as well, but even just like his demeanor on like media day. It was just very like even kill. Like he's getting all these questions about how you're gonna fit and shooting threes and your offensive game and all that stuff. And he's just like, yo, it's not rocket science. Like it's basketball. I'll figure it out, And that's exactly what it's looked like to me in these first 4 games. Like in the very first game, it did seem like he was a little bit timid. He was trying to find where to pick his spots. Him and Zach were still trying to figure out that cohesion on like possession to possession, but game by game, you're seeing the confidence grow in his game, not because he didn't have it, right? He's a 4-time All-Star, he's a perennial offensive player, but because he's learning how to be his best effective self within this offensive system.
Definitely. And there's a lot of weapons too, which that's something that he's had to adjust to because, since I would even say that Toronto what lineup has he had that's this stacked in terms of offensive firepower? The Toronto teams were more balanced in terms of, offense and defense. It wasn't just more offense heavy or more defense heavy. They had balanced lineups to complement DeRozan and Lowry. It wasn't really like I said, like a just explosive offensive team where the Bulls potentially have, with Lonzo being able to hit 5 triples off ball, just spotting up. 15 points right there. Zach exploding like in that Detroit game, 37. And Vooch, who hasn't really even gotten into his groove yet. And that's another guy who's going to step up and his number's going to go up, scoring a lot. They're going to be up and down this season, but he's going to have some huge scoring nights. But as you alluded to, DeRozan, he's just it's just comfortable now. You know what I mean? It's that sort of, not to say you have to be accepted or your teammates have to, they know what you bring to the table, but they have to see it. And the fact that he's doing it, and the fact that I think he did it early in Toronto was just a big feather on his cap, because he showed them how to close out a game even when there's adversity. And he did that on a team that he spent, majority of his career on. So it was an emotional game as well. I think that's going to be a game they look back on, that, okay, if they're in this is a similar position later on in the season, they can look back on that and say, okay, we're not as nervous, or we have been through this situation before, and we can close this out. So
Yeah, no, definitely. And another player I kind of want to highlight is Zach Levine, right? Like, let's not forget, like, that theory about a player going to the Olympics and how that kind of elevates their game, not just only from like the experience on the basketball X's and O's, but just the mentality, right? Like, Zach to me is carrying himself differently now. It's like he fully recognizes what his offensive power is, and not just offensive power, his whole game. Like, his defense looks more confident. Like, he just looks like a much more confident player out
yeah,
on the
man,
court.
he's just real tapped in. You're exactly right. He's just real tapped in
Yeah,
right now. I mean, if you even saw his
yeah,
interview for the Toronto game, he was pissed off because how they finished. That game shouldn't have been a one possession game with Fred VanVleet with a chance to tie it at the end. Like, that should not have happened. He was mad after the game, and you saw in the post game anyway. That's the kind of stuff you want to see out of your leader, coming out in the first game of the season and dropping, like I said, 37 and setting the tone. Where, like, this is, like, you're coming off that momentum of the Olympic year, but it's a new roster. You want to win, and you're showing it. You're proving it, and this is just the beginning. He's obviously going to have to keep doing it on I guess the better teams. But I think him setting that tone, and like you said, the way he's carrying himself, like, he's always wanted to win, but now he has that confidence in that team that we can win on any given night. So they're going to act accordingly, honestly.
right. Yeah, like one example I'll give is just even that first game against Detroit. Um, I remember like Zach's. I think his first quarter was pretty paltry, right? He had 2 points. He only shot the ball 3 times, didn't get to the line at all. Um, and in the second quarter, he just came out killing, right? 9 points, made every shot. And then, of course, he had that infamous third quarter where he just went completely off. 15
Crazy,
points, like
crazy.
just crazy step backs, like his drives, like you know what his game is making me think of, and I don't know if where this is coming from, if it's off base or what, but this is just what is happening when I watch him play on offense now. I think of like the early 2000s when like Vince Carter was running the league, and like Allen Iverson and McGrady, like those kind of guys. And
Yeah,
it's just like if you just threw him on like one of those games, like live 02 or live 03, like he would be one of the best players on the game, like with what he's capable of offensively. So it just makes me go, like, is this dude potentially underrated right now? Like,
I think he
if he was
is,
in a different
because
team, different situation, different kind of spotlight or whatever, like
yeah,
I feel like this dude should be getting more credit.
no, you're right. I mean, he has such an unfair label too. We talked about this before. Just the fact the Bulls have been competitive. He's had all these damn coaches really all over the place. It's, if you have a different coach every season, how successful do you expect me to be? And then also coming off the ACL injury, being known early as this dunk contest champion, and not
Right.
as someone who significantly improved his game year by year, to the point where last season he shot elite percentages while averaging 27 points a game. People are still questioning if he's a good basketball player or even better than a lot of guys. I really don't get. I mean, I get most people don't watch the Bulls, especially the past couple of years, because there hasn't been much of a reason. But
Right.
you can't just blanketly say that, because that's a weird statement. And then there's this narrative on him that he's just a points or a stats guy. That's not the case. You want to win every situation. They were even close to the playoffs, which was the goal last year before he went down with COVID. So he's been wanting to win since he got to the Bulls, especially obviously since he entered the league. But since he was traded for a franchise centerpiece, he wanted to become that guy, and he's worked to become that. So I don't know. I think he's always got that unfair rep around the league, but win the gold medal and doing a lot of the role player things, playing great defense and coming with timely scoring and parlaying that into this year, I think the narrative is going to change pretty quickly as soon as they get to the playoffs. But it's just weird that it's just unofficially has to happen for you to become a winning player, just to even have that notch of being to the playoffs. But he's not a losing piece, which is what I think the narrative is somehow.
Right. And I don't know. I feel like in the summer, when I'm hearing these random rumors about the Bulls should maybe trade him now and try and like cash in on his value, I was just like, yo, like this is somebody I think you want on your team. Like, why are we trying to get rid of this guy? Like, not only that, we like low key developed him these past few years, even though, like you said, there's been a lot of coaching changes and a lot of like weird stuff with the front office. But at the same time, like after his stint in Minnesota, after the ACL, like he's kind of had a place to kind of hone his craft and learn how to become the man, right? Like he hasn't maybe done the best job, and maybe you could say that's related to the talent that's been around him. But at the end of the day, he's been in this role as the guy in training. Let's just call it that, the guy in training this whole time. So now when he was ready to fully become the guy, the front office gave him reinforcement. So like the pieces work together perfectly now in alignment with the timing of just, his maturity and the rest of the team's maturity.
Yeah, exactly. And it's telling, like you said, they believed in him and they went out and got surrounding talent to complement him, not trade him and do some weird rebuild or whatever, because they could have done that direction, because there is a sector of fans who still, question his trade value, or like they want to test that for some reason. I just don't get it. But anyway, like he's proven everything to me, and he's gonna only continue to go up because he's learning how to close out these games alongside someone who's already done it. And DeRozan's really the guy I think that stood out for me the first 4 games of the season, because the first game and throughout parts of preseason, you said it before, he was just kind of getting his footing as how does he fit into this leadership role with a young star already established on the team. But we brought you here to be this clutch factor. So how do you instill your style of play at the end of games? And DeRozan's done an excellent job of picking his spots in terms of when to ISO and when to play make. And it dividends, especially that Toronto game where at the end he was either getting penetration going to the line, finding a teammate, getting a bucket from himself, made that nice like half spin, turn around the corner. Like
he was also dunking on people too. Like,
man, yeah, it's he was all on that game. He was back at Toronto, so he definitely showed up for
right.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It was great to see though, because there's another guy who can take that pressure off. And how many times we see it last year where Zach or Kobe White had to make a play, desperation play, breakdown, or Thaddeus Young had to find a cut. Like
Magic.
Shouldn't have. Shout out to Thaddeus Young, but that shouldn't have had to be like our late game offense consistently. And now there's a million guys, or a few different guys who can get a bucket now, and we saw that with DeRozan, and then I think we're gonna see that more with Vooch down the stretch and Levine as we get into games against more competitive teams.
Yeah, can we trade Tony Bradley for Thagic? Is that possible? Can you make the numbers work for me? I feel like Thaddeus Young on this team, and we don't really like lose anybody major, would be amazing. Like, we need to find a way to get him back.
He would be perfect. The Spurs don't even use him right now. Right. They use Pirtle and Drew Eubanks off the bench. Come on, they don't realize Thaddeus Young was basically our second best player last year. So
right, that says everything you need to know about the 2020 or 2019-2020 Bulls. Did I say that right?
No, it was. I had to think about it for a second. No, that was.
That sounds like 2 seasons ago.
We were just talking about that, but. That was like a year ago, though.
Why? Because of the pandemic seasons, and yeah.
I
feel time warped as a basketball fan. That's funny.
spoiled and time warped, but it's a little not exhausting, but it's tough to follow sometimes.
Right,
You lose your place.
for sure. Um, so Vooch, what's going on with your man Vooch, man? What's go? So I'll just say really quickly from my perspective, I've kind of been writing about the fact that everything we've been seeing from him at this point is his floor, right? Not his ceiling. So it's like,
Right.
even though you can pick apart, he's missing these wide open bunnies, he's missing these wide open pick and pop mid range shots. He's not really hitting the three ball well. Um, Defensively, he's looked shaky at best. Like, obviously, he's not known as a defender necessarily, but he holds his own, right? He still understands defensive concepts fine. He rotates as best as he can. Um, and usually, the bigger the player is, and like I guess less fleet of foot, than that, he can kind of hold his own on the low block and things of that nature. But regardless, just overall, he seems like maybe he out of those three, main guys on offense in the starting lineup is struggling the most to get his rhythm going. So what do you think is the key for him to get going? And then like what kind of heights could he take the team once he is getting going?
Yeah, that's a good question, honestly. I think the main thing has been the shot distribution, or I wouldn't say lack thereof, but like you said, he's been the guy, probably the fourth guy in terms of him aggressively looking or going after a shot. Because we've seen an aggressive form of Lonzo even to start the season, which I wasn't sure if we were going to get that to begin the year like that. But he's been aggressive, at least with his shot down from downtown. And obviously, Levine gets his shots up and he gets to a rhythm on his own and with teammates now, especially out in transition, or spotting up for three. And then DeRozan, same way. He plays the second unit. The thing with Vooch, he doesn't have that time with the second unit where DeRozan, where he'll have a second stint with Alize Johnson, Troy Brown Jr., Javante Green, and then Caruso. And you're the primary scorer by far in that lineup. You know what I mean? That makes sense. The same thing with Vooch. Like, say he was out there in place of DeRozan or someone else. He doesn't really have that sort of established second time or that featured time yet where he is a true go-to guy. Like, he is.
Right.
Last year in Orlando, he was carrying them to wins they should have never seen, or even just keeping them competitive in games. The fact that he made the All-Star team last year is more of a indictment on how good he was, especially prior to when he got to the Bulls. Because, like I said, it's not like they were competitive, but he was putting up huge numbers on a team that doesn't really have that many pieces. And they weren't empty numbers. He's always amazing on the glass, which he has been to start this year. He's already got an 18 rebound game, 15 rebound game. He's going to kill on the glass for sure. But to answer your question, along with a statement, they have to establish him outside of the games. They have to establish him first and third quarters. That's what traditionally, like how we grew up watching basketball, like they would try to establish like that post.
Right.
First few minutes of the game, you got to do that. Give him some touches. They did it at the beginning of the Toronto game with.
I was just about to say that's exactly what they did. I feel
like they ran like right off the jump. They ran the screen and roll with them and Levine, which I need to see more because that can be so deadly. And they got him a couple times in the corner with the pick and pop, but you got to do that all day. That is literally bread and butter. Remember when Boozer used to hit those 18? He's probably even more sure than that because he can pop out to three. And if he gets his jumper going, that's the thing with Vooch.
That's the thing, yeah.
Sometimes he works outside in, where like if he gets that 15-footer, 18-footer going, the three will start going, and then all those bunnies around the basket, those will start falling anyway. But if he can get his jumper going, we'll see more three attempts too, which is another element we can exploit.
Yeah, do you remember before, obviously, the Bulls got him, we played Orlando last year. I can't remember which game it was. But I think it was the latter one before he got traded.
It was the second one. I know exactly what you're talking about.
He put on a clinic. I was like, what is this? Pick and pop. Like, it's exactly what you just said. Like, in the beginning, once that jumper, like, fell, like, the first two times, he just lit fire. He was unstoppable.
He has such a rhythm game. Yeah, he has such a rhythm game. Like, it's a rhythm jumper. Like, not to say his jumpers his jumper's never out of rhythm, but if it can get in rhythm quick, he's gonna have a big night because he just needs that to fall. He's gonna keep shooting from there. If the jumper's not falling like that, he's gonna try and mix it up. He'll go down low, probably step out, but it's not gonna be anything consistent. So, like I said, if you can hit a couple like short buckets in the beginning or a couple pick and pop mid rangers, anything to get him going early in games, that's gonna be good for the Bulls. But the rebound numbers are gonna be huge all season because that's one thing to watch, and that was one thing I'm watching. Gonna be watching the entire season. Who was the second leading rebounder any given night? Because that Toronto game, the game that we struggled, got killed in the glass. The second leading guy had 4 boards, and I think it was tied for probably 2-3 guys had 4 rebounds. Can't do that because Vooch only had like 8 or 7. Yeah,
that's not gonna cut it. Yeah, it's funny. Stacey King was like, Vucevic just rolls out of bed and picks up a double-double. Like, yeah, like, and that's the thing. But the double-doubles he has gotten, right? Like, they've still been pretty like pedestrian games. It's like he can play way better than that. So it's like a luxury that is that. He's putting up these stat lines. And like you said, great point once again, they're not empty numbers, right? Like he grabs a rebound when you really need it. He gets a putback, which, converts to 2 points when you really need it. Like he'll finally hit that pick and pop jump shot at a clutch moment. Like he doesn't just score, all his points in irrelevant sectors of the game. So I'm mainly looking forward to him just kind of finding his groove, his confidence. It really seems like a confidence thing to me. Like it doesn't seem like, there's something fundamentally wrong with like his spacing or like where to, his intelligence on where to be on the court. Like it seems like it's just timing and confidence. And once he hits that stride, similar to the way DeRozan is already hitting that, I think, that'll do wonders for this offense and for everybody else, right? That's another layer of pressure taken off of Zach Levine, taken off of DeRozan.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think another thing worth noting is the fact that he's the only true big man that we're going to play on any given night too, which he has to have that confidence that not only is he's an all-star player, but you need those touches to complement the fact that you are the only big, especially the only offensive-minded big who can carry a team, like on our team, on the entire roster, really. Especially if like a Tony Bradley's not playing. We're not even playing 2 7-footers on any given night. We're really small, and he has to basically impose his will versus these other front lines. We're gonna see that more versus these better teams, but the teams that, the Jazz have Rudy Gobert and Hassan Whiteside. The Lakers have Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, DeAndre Jordan, all these 7-footers. Like Vooch has to establish. They have to establish him because if his confidence ever wavers, it's going to look like 1 versus a million at the end of the day. It's going to look extremely tough. Foul trouble, like he's going to have to overcompensate for stuff. He's already going to have to play the role of pseudo rim protector, or at least defend the rim if you don't get blocks, contest shots, which he's done a decent job so far. But if they don't establish him on offense, they could risk, him just going through the ebbs and flows, which they can't afford for that to happen because he's so important on a nightly basis. He was questionable for the Toronto game, and I was okay. Who's starting?
That's true. Yeah.
Joshua Chua is not a traditional center either, so you can get away with Alize Johnson, but literally, we got the Knicks tomorrow. You can't do that. You can't start Alize versus Mitch Robinson. You're putting yourself at disadvantage. You got to start Tony Bradley if no Vooch. So,
right,
he's extremely important, basically. So they have to cater to him like they kind of did when they acquired him last year. Just get him those touches to get him engaged and involved early.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was saying last week. By the way, I'm pretty sure you asked me to make a prediction about the first game.
Hey, you nailed it.
Remember Zach Levine? You're like, how many points? I said 28. He had 28 like very late in the fourth. And then I think he hit some free throws and like one more layup or something. And that's how he got to 34. But I was like, man, I think I had it right on the money for like a hot second.
No, that's a good prediction. If you're a betting man, you would hit the over for sure.
But yeah, no, I think I think in general, Vooch will be fine. It's just a confidence thing, like we said. But the slightly scary part to all of that is like, because he's our main, kind of big man, we really don't have that much depth from a size perspective. And even with him playing now, we're getting killed on the boards, right?
Man,
we're absolutely killed, and still finding a way to pull out these victories. But that doesn't give you confidence for the rest of the year.
But for real, what's crazy? I was watching that Toronto game. Okay, I really wonder what these numbers are. When they said I think they showed the rebounding numbers late. I want to say the fourth quarter. It said 45 to 26. I'm like, there's no way. One, we have 26 rebounds in the fourth quarter, and then two, we have 26 rebounds. We have a double-digit lead right now. How is this possible?
No, exactly, double-digit lead.
I think what helps us is we're getting extra possessions with the turnovers and steals and things of that nature, and actually converting, obviously, these steals into points. But if we're not active like that defensively, or a block outlet pass or running off the catch, we can play this way, but it puts more pressure on the offense if we're not actually securing possessions, getting rebounds. But that's the risk when you run five smalls out there. Alize Johnson is 6'7". At the end of the day, he's extremely active and he works hard on defense. I think he's on the glass and he's done well so far. But
yeah, baby Robin.
What do you think of that nickname? I like the fact that he's embracing that for real.
I do. But I think we need to wait like 30 games before we anoint him as baby Robin. Like I need a bigger sample size before I'm confidently saying that with my chest out.
That's fun. Tony Bradley. It's gonna be interesting to see what Billy does.
When does Tony Bradley get in? What's your prediction? First, is it the New York game?
He has to, I think. I mean, you can get away with it. Mitch Robinson's not back to the basket center, but you're giving up lobs, you're giving up blocks, you're giving up. You could play him, I guess, against Todd's second unit, I guess, but Todd is gonna get offensive rebounds. We already know. We are very, very familiar with this game.
Hard hat, lunch pail.
He's setting that glass on you. He's hitting that hook shot probably. Like it's
right.
You could probably
mid range.
By the Utah game though. The next game, you have to play Tony Bradley. Not only is that his former team, they have Whiteside and Gobert. You can't sacrifice that much. Assuming they play Whiteside, which I haven't really been checking their backup rotations like that. But assuming they play both, you have to give Vooch that help.
No, that's true. So even for some weird reason, if Bradley doesn't play in the next game against New York, he definitely will play against Utah. So
yeah, no question.
But I think you're right. It's probably gonna be both games. Yeah.
Who out of the role players, the utility guys I was talking about in the first episode, who out of the utility guys impressed you the most this past week? And this is probably an easy answer.
Well, I feel like the cop out answer is Caruso, so I'm gonna try and force myself to pick a different one to make this a little more challenging.
It's crazy. Caruso's kind of, I would say right now, he's more sixth man than utility even because of how big.
That's true.
He's playing like 27 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. No, that's true. You definitely said utility, but
I would say,
Caruso in there.
He basically is too. I feel like he'll be that borderline once Kobe White gets back because I don't see that minutes distribution. They might cut him off like 25 maybe, but crunch time, he's closing games. That's definitely an option.
He is, and it's just, I don't know if it's just like that confidence from a championship caliber team playing with LeBron, whatever. But he just looks so comfortable out there, man. Like
it's the poise, it's the defense.
Poise, not fazed by anything.
Knowing where to be and not making mistakes. Generally, that's It's so underrated, especially at the end of the game. If you can hit a free throw, play some defense, you don't got to take the last shot. I mean, you should be out there though. I'm not gonna, be at a disadvantage with you out there. So
he
plays his role to a T for real.
So to get to your question though, I feel like my favorite player from that bench unit thus far, which I've already talked about in the last podcast, is Javonte Green.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge Javonte Green fan. Let's give him as many minutes as that man wants to play.
Hey, he should play more. He should play more.
Right? Especially if he's splashing these threes. I don't know what this is. He's just dead-eye marksman. It's great. I love to see it. But actually, I'm gonna answer your question with Alex A. Johnson. I was definitely super skeptical, like when we first got him, combined with Stanley Johnson. You know, the Johnson and Johnson jokes were coming in left and right. I wasn't particularly excited. I would just put it like that. And in the preseason, he showed me something. I was like, okay, I think we got a little something here, right? Like he was clearly hustling. You know, there wasn't anything stand out about his offensive game, but that's not his calling card anyway, right? Baby Rodman. That's kind of where that nickname came from,
right?
But yeah, for someone of that size, like that man hustles. He's physical. Like he's not afraid to get dunked on, right? He's going to contest almost anything, which is what you want. And yes, I just think he provides value in these like spot minutes, where he can give people a breather, and he's bringing tons of energy. The putbacks are great, right? Like his timing and just feel around the rim to be in the right position, is making a huge difference. So I'm gonna go Alizé Johnson just because, like in the beginning of the season, I wasn't really expecting to even be talking about him right now, right?
Gotcha.
And that's no shots to him. He wasn't on my radar. I didn't see him play a lot last year, so now he's a member of the Bulls. Like I'm impressed. Like I'm curious to see how the rest of his year turns out.
Yeah, I like it for a couple of reasons, and you hit the nail on the head. He had sporadic minutes basically his entire career thus far. He's shown spurts. He's had those huge games, in the season with the Nets last year, but he hasn't been a guy who's had a consistent role. So I was kind of skeptical in terms of can you play him every night as the quote unquote backup five, which is a different sort of role these days anyway. But the fact that he's adding this sort of production where some games he will have a high rebounding number. I think he was the second highest rebounder in the Pelicans game, if I'm not mistaken. One of these games he had I think 8 rebound game. But it's that sort of production where you want to see in certain spots. So if you are the backup center and you're grabbing these X amount of rebounds and you're doing, even if you're contributing only a couple buckets, you're still adding value off this bench spot where it's not like you're nuking this position on any given night in terms of production. Because at the end of the day, if you're not contributing X amount of numbers, it's tough to win because it all has to add up. It all has to add up literally. And we're talking about points, rebounds, assists, everything you can think of. So the fact that Alizé Johnson comes in with his activity, he can play small ball center and run the floor. He can make hustle plays and keep balls alive. Like he is a legit hustle player who accepts his role and he doesn't care how many minutes he's playing. And that's
Right.
huge. What did I say last week where, did Derek Jones even get in? Like there's a lot of guys in this team where they're interchangeable, but they can be productive. And Alizé Johnson is on the glass for sure. Has been, he's been productive. He's been that secondary, probably the second best rebounder so far.
Yeah,
that's huge off the bench.
No, for sure. Lonzo Ball, we haven't given him any shine, but I want to get your take on Lonzo thus far. I know you're a longtime Lonzo fan, so four games in, what's your assessment of how he stepped in and kind of stabilized the point guard position for Chicago?
I love how he's playing. I think he's playing aggressively, like I said earlier to kick off the show. I think he's been aggressive with his shot. That was one thing that I've always been, wanting to see from him, just that aggressiveness with his size and his ability, his athletic ability, his speed. He's extremely quick in the open court. He's extremely smart in terms of getting the ball out and advancing the ball. Extremely active on defense, and the fact that he's accepting this role as the perimeter stopper and the guy that's going to be the quarterback of the defense least on the perimeter, and probably the entire defense, if we're being honest. Vooch, like we said, isn't really that back end rim protector anchor of the defense type. So Lonzo has to be that head, the snake, where the Bulls are effective at the point of attack, where they're not letting or allowing easy penetration, or they're getting out in transition, which these Lonzo, Caruso, Javonte Green lineups, they close the distance. Like it's not, they're not even cheating off their man, really. They're still closing the distance with these quick traps. And
right,
how can you play so aggressively on defense and not foul? Like,
that's
crazy.
You brought this point up the other day, and I was floored when I thought about it, because it's like, yo, do you know? And you heard me say this, but do you know how hard it is to play defense? Against these elite NBA offensive players
in today's league,
combined with today's league, where it's designed to make it easier for the offensive player. And like you said, they are not fouling.
Right.
Like, it's just clean, straight up, lockdown defense.
Like Caruso getting 5 steals off the bench, Lonzo getting 3-4 blocks, a couple steals, Javonte Green, a couple steals, Troy Brown. All these guys are defensive minded, but the underrated thing, they're all around the same size. Even Ayo, 6'5", 6'6".
Right. All
very
tall,
athletic,
big.
If we're being honest, too. These are not just athletic NBA players. Like, Lonzo's a very good athlete. Caruso's a very good athlete. Javonte Green, I think, is an elite athlete in terms of just leaping ability. Like, these are all great athletes, too. They have great foot speed. And when you establish a tone that you're an aggressive defensive team, refs will also give you leeway where you're not getting that reach in foul. If you're known for getting 10 steals a game, if you're known for, as a team, being very active defensively, and the Bulls are going to get away with so much in terms of, not to say they're going to foul people and get away with it, but they're going to have some leeway in terms of how aggressive they can be on defense. And it leads to points. We see it. Like, it's and the great part about it is it's the point guard doing this. So Lonzo takes the ball, Caruso takes the ball. I'm making the right decision. I'm finding the open man, like, immediately, and this is the score. So that Pelicans game was like that. The early part of the Raptors game, these points off takeaways.
Right. I think
it's huge.
I want to say it was a Toronto game. It was the second Detroit game. I think it was like 24 forced turnovers or something like that. And it's just like, and then they converted like 23 points off of that or something like that. So it's just like, literally, the defense is creating offense for this team. And that's huge, especially with a new team with all these different offensive pieces that are still finding their way, right? So it's like DeMar was talking about after that third game, that was kind of the mentality going into this season and in training camp and whatnot. Like, there actually was a focus on just defense, because it was understood, the offense will follow. But if we get defense right early, you can get a good head start from that. You can build on that. And then that gives you time for you to actually, get into that offensive flow. So, because as long as you're defending, right, you're always going to be in a game.
Right.
But you can be scoring points, but if you're not defending, you're always in the potential to be, losing the game or about to. So
exactly, and you're setting that tone that I'm a defensive, or I can play defense and hang with you, or if my offense isn't going, where we saw that second Pistons game, we're down 9-0, and a better team would have built out a lead, but the fact that the Bulls were able to keep it stagnant in terms of defensive stops, where the Pistons didn't keep scoring. They got off and they scored some buckets in the beginning, but they didn't keep scoring. By the time that quarter was over, it's basically even, or the Bulls had the lead. I'm not sure, but like I said, previous years we've seen that where another team might build that lead, and then it's kind of tough to come back from. But if you establish that defensive identity and you can actually, like I said, turn the defense into something, that's huge. You're going to find yourself in games where you're shooting poorly, or, Levine doesn't have it going, or they haven't established Vooch, or DeRozan shots off. But that second unit in particular, that defensive-minded second unit, can come in and be huge.
Yeah.
I think, to answer the utility question earlier, the guy that stood out to me was Troy Brown, because he lost his spot a couple times throughout the 4 games, but he that last Toronto game played well, but he's been
He
up and
did.
down. But
He
I like the
has.
fact that he's sticking. I like the fact he's sticking with it though.
No, yeah, he has, and I'm trying not to be too critical because it's once again it's early, right? There hasn't been a huge sample size. I'm not gonna lie, I've been a little disappointed, but at the same time, the
Yeah,
effort is there, right? He's still defending, he's still trying to make the
exactly.
right play. Like he has been splashing some wide open shots, which is promising, right? Whenever someone's like splashing a wide open three, it's like okay, there's some sort of shot and formula in there that allows for consistency.
Yeah, and
Um,
we need somebody. We need at least two to get double digits off the bench. But
right.
if we can get like three guys with like eight, or like I said, Crusoe will give us 8 to 14. I feel like any given night. Brown or Javante Green has to get doubles. Somebody has to get double. Alize Johnson. Somebody has to get double digits off the bench, just to
Yeah.
offset that bench production because we're already going to be the lower bench scoring teams without Kobe White anyway. So someone else has to fill that void in terms of at least scoring 10 or 11.
Yeah. And then I guess the player we kind of left out with all of this whole equation for this whole machine to work is
I
our power forward.
exactly. Yeah, I knew where you were going with that. It's kind of
So
fitting in a way because he hasn't done much. But
yeah, no,
I mean,
I like that. That is fitting. The fact that we talked about all these other dudes and had nothing to say about Pat Williams is a little indicative of the fact that we ain't got nothing to talk about. Like it's
low key.
I I will say preseason or let me backtrack. Summer league, how their whole plan was to kind of feature him and have him be the guy, right? Even in that setting, even though he was kind of killing, it still didn't seem like that was naturally what he wanted to do. Like it seemed like he just wanted to kind of go out there and ball and kind of like play his role. And so I'm kind of seeing. I guess at this point, what I'm seeing is he's. I don't even know if he's sure what his offensive role is going to be yet. And maybe, just looking at this team, you can anticipate it's not necessarily huge because of the weapons they have.
Right.
Well, I don't know if that's a coaching thing or if that's an aggressiveness thing. Let me put it that way to you. Do you think for Pat right now, is this the coaching staff needs to find more creative ways to get him going, or do you think he can just find plenty of opportunities by being more aggressive?
I think it's definitely the second one because no offense, what are those things that are going to get him going? If we're being, this isn't like,
Right,
and I love his game. It's just
right,
he's still establishing that. If we're being honest,
true.
they don't even have him as a high volume catch and shoot guy, which I think at this point just have him shoot 4, 5 threes.
I thought that's what
He's
he was going to be doing.
he's
Yeah,
very accurate. The fact that he'll some games not even attempt a three, that's just I think okay, maybe that's a coaching thing, but he has to not pass up shots. He had a couple opportunities. That
he
Toronto game
did.
in particular,
Yep, yep.
passed up wide open shots. I'll give him a pass though because he had an injury during preseason.
That's
Hurt
true.
himself with that shoulder, even though I don't know if they're saying that serious or not. He hurt himself with the shoulder. I think the Pelicans game. Yeah, it's a different sort of expectations now where you're not, it was a big deal him being a rookie starter on a bad team last year, but this is a team that, we have aspirations of doing big things this year, even if it's just going back to the playoffs. And he has to start developing and leaning more into those role player things where the offense isn't going. You can't give me 0 rebounds to it. You have
Right.
to be that secondary
Especially at
rebounder.
that four position. Like you got to get down there.
Once again, we see these matchups. We haven't encountered them yet, but Julius Randle is going to get 16, 17 rebounds on you if you grab 0 because they're going to go to him. He's going to.
Right.
You have to help Vooch because it's going to be Randle and Mitch Robinson. Mitch Robinson isn't, 12, 13 rebounds, but he'll get at least 7, 8, 9. Like he'll get close to double digits. So we're already talking about almost 30 rebounds accounted for where, Vooch isn't going to grab 30. So you got to help him out just right there.
Right.
It's just simple stuff like that where he's always going to be active defensively. We're going to put him on the toughest forward matchup at least. Lonzo gets the toughest perimeter guy now, but you're playing big. You're playing that big forward spot. You're not playing the 3 anymore. You can get away with that getting a couple, 2, 3 rebounds, 4 rebounds as a small forward on the wing last year. You're playing 4 spot now. You have to grab
Yeah.
boards. You have to get 7 to 8 a game, and that's where I want to see him improve. Where even if he's not being as aggressive as I want him to be, which he's still going to ease into that, and hopefully guys like DeRozan will continue to just be in his ear. He did a great job the other day of pulling him to the side. He messed up on one play where I think he should have slipped, and he didn't slip or something like that.
Yeah.
And DeRozan pulled him to the side and talked to him. Just stuff like that where...
But you see more like a mentorship kind of dynamic.
Right. And from a guy who's done it all in the league and has competed at the highest level, especially individually in terms of accolades. So
Compton's finest.
For real, man. He's cold, man. I love the facts on the Bulls, for real. But
yeah,
he's gonna be great for guys like Pat and DeRozan, Lonzo, seeing that young example too. DeRozan's what, 31 maybe?
I think he's 31 or 32. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a guy. I mean, look, not that much older than you. Like he,
right.
Extremely relatable. So he's gonna do wonders for Pat. But that's, like I said, I want to see Pat rebounds and even assists, making that extra pass. Be more proactive with that. Don't get the ball up, whip it out, whip it to across the court instead of penetrating and finding a shot. Like, he has that capability. He has that size. He can actually get into the lane. He needs to be more aggressive in those aspects. But
idea. Let me know what you think. What if we take Tom Thibodeau's playbook that he had for Luol Deng and just give it to Pat Williams?
Interesting.
But obviously modernize it a bit, get some threes in there. Like you said, about 4 threes a game, catch and shoot is fine. But like, can we get him on some curls and like some slants? Almost like it, because he can hit a pull up jump shot, right? He clearly has that. He also can hit that pull up floater, which you can easily do off a curl or something like that. So that's the part where I bring up the coaching. It's just like,
true.
I'm not saying necessarily the coaches aren't doing a good job with him, but I think based on him not showing that aggressiveness yet, and maybe it's the shoulder, maybe it's, just the conditioning he needed to catch up from the ankle injury. I'm not sure. But if you see that he's struggling with aggressiveness, maybe these are different ways you can kind of inject that back in naturally for him by, calling, a few plays in the first quarter for him. But more so design, not just kind of like third option of a broken play or something.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, they could do more of that, really, but it's...
At the end of the day, it's still on him.
No, it's not though. I think I'm trying to think of what they can do a little bit more of. I think they can definitely get him more active as a cutter, and especially coming off curls. But that mid-range shot is just not popular anymore coming off curls. And he's not really that guy coming off like a tough screen.
Right, fighting through.
Gary Trent Jr. or like a real sniper. Like, he's more of a setup corner shooter, or like, where he can get like his feet set underneath him, even if he shoots it far behind the line. I think he should just shoot way more threes because he's accurate. He shot the ball 40% last year or something like that. Or
he is accurate.
But we're talking about like on 4 attempts a game or whatever. He needs to shoot like 6. Just start with that. Mix in some escape moves. Turn down the 3 a couple times. Shoot that mid-range J, that floater, like you said. Be aggressive going to the basket. That's one thing, Pat. That's the next step too. He's not really aggressive going all the way to the basket and trying to finish. Even with the floater, that's like, you can't do that every time. You have to.
Yeah, I need him to try and dunk on somebody.
Right? Like, come on, like
he clearly can. He has giant hands, long arms. He's mad athletic. Like he has all the tools to do it. That just sounds like a mentality thing to me.
Definitely, but it's like, okay, since you're playing bigger guys, do you lose that? You shouldn't lose that sort of mentality, but I mean, psychologically, you could have that sort of hesitation. You're playing the power forwards every day, every night. You're not at the 3 anymore, where you might be bigger than some of these 3s even. Like, he's a big dude anyway, but you're not bigger than any of these 4s. Like, you're the smallest guy. You're smaller than your matchup basically every night. So it's different going amongst the trees and, setting up maybe on the elbow or even the corner where they're not paying attention to you. It's I don't know. They're gonna have to. I think he'll be fine in the long run for sure, and especially once he gets more confident with his offense, like putting like better showings offensively. But I
Yeah.
really want to see him on defense and the glass just be a lot more active.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Now, in terms of, I guess just overall, right? So since the last podcast, the Bulls have played 4 games. They've won all 4 games.
4-0.
They currently sit at the top of the standings for the entire NBA.
Wait, hold on. You gotta say it. 4-0 for the first time since
1996, 97.
Man, oh man. How old were you in 96? 96. How old were you in 97?
In 96, I was 5. And so 97, 6. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was 5 too.
Right. We always talk about
5 as well, you know.
5 foot 2 inches. No, we always talk about the 90s era, right? Like that we didn't get to experience that dynasty in the way that people who are 10 years older than us did. But we were around, we were aware it was happening, right? We just couldn't, experience it the same way. But for that record to be holding up as of 2 days ago from 1996, that's embarrassing. And then don't forget
that's where you're going with this. Hilarious.
Right. And don't forget Zach Levine. I'll let you finish. What's Zach Levine's new record that's been broken?
Oh my God! First time winning 4 games in a row in his NBA career, which is 8th year in the league.
8th year vet.
Finally broke the streak.
But he did in the same night that the Bulls went 4-0, which broke their streak since 1996. So it's kind of poetic in a sense.
That's gotta mean something.
Right. That's a good sign, right? That's a good sign. So yeah, 4 up, 4 down. We got New York at home, Joakim Noah night on Thursday. So first, let's talk a little bit about that Knicks matchup. D Rose returning to the UC.
Yeah, we got a lot of familiar faces in the building that night.
Right, Taj, Tibbs, the whole crew. And then I got some. I'm just gonna plant the seed now. I got some Joakim Noah trivia for you, real brief.
Ooh, okay.
In honor of Joakim Noah night. But yeah, first let's talk about that Knicks matchup. Obviously, I don't know. Maybe going forward, we're gonna be saying this every game, but this is the biggest test of the season for the Bulls at this point, right?
For sure.
This reloaded New York team. They got Kemba Walker now. Julius Randle still balling out of control. R.J. Barrett, his ascension seems to be pretty consistent, right? Like he was a high draft pick several years ago, but at this point, I feel like you don't hear about him in the same breath that people talk about Zion, and obviously they came out the same year, but he's just been steady in terms of his progression. He didn't fade away like a Kevin Knox. No shots to Kevin Knox, but he didn't fade away in terms of all of the talk around that time when he was drafted. He's been a solid contributor for this New York team. So with all that energy coming in from New York, and there's kind of resurgences for Chicago and New York becoming more relevant.
Yeah.
With that combined with the Bulls 4-0, our 5-0 is at stake. How are you feeling headed into this game on Thursday?
I'm confident, but it's going to be very interesting because, like you said, it is the first real test. There's a lot of variables at stake, like you said. I think the main thing is seeing the matchup between Barrett and Levine, how they handled the defensive assignment with them checking Zach Levine, because Barrett he's a great defender. Now, to your point, where he's kind of been flying under the radar in terms of his, I guess, career trajectory, or even
that's a much better way to say it than the drive-by I gave Kevin Knox.
I was going to say, yeah, that was a little bogus. No, I'm joking.
that was. I'm sorry, Kevin Knox.
I mean, look, Tibbs is tough though. You gotta.
Right.
We see Obi Toppin's that was a ready made like prospect in a way, and he barely played last year, but
Right.
doing better
Same.
now. But
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. It's gonna be interesting because Barrett is a guy where he's playing so many minutes already. You're like, is his ceiling capped by the fact that he is at what is he averaging, like 37 minutes already? Your per 36 numbers are irrelevant then at that point in terms of that's used for projection, and then relative to other teams, all that kind of stuff, like relative to how many minutes you should play. But this is a guy who's basically playing, 30. Oh, he played 35 last year, so he's basically playing these heavy minutes already. So how much more room is there for him to grow in terms of his statistical production? But he's done a great job with everything else. Like his defense has caught up to his offense, and then some. I think he's probably even a better defender than offensive player to me at this point. And
Right.
he's good on offense. His three ball's gotten a lot better. He can actually hit threes, multiple threes in a game. He's effective on offense. I think for him, he's going to take another leap, but he's the guy that we have to watch out for. If he gets a big game, 25 points, 26, that's a tough matchup. That's a tough game to win because you got to assume the Kemba D Rose combo is going to get you 30 or more. Just say that. D Rose will get at least 14, 15 off the bench. Kemba anywhere from like 12 to 18, 20. So it's just, if we can handle RJ Barrett, if Barrett somehow isn't that aggressive, or Levine does a good job on the flip side defending him, which is going to be interesting because Barrett's a big body player, lefty. So we'll see how Levine handles him, or DeRozan spend some time. Lonzo could throw a few guys at him, but not only Barrett, but the guy from the Bulls side, I'm obviously looking out for is I think Lonzo. I think Lonzo's a nightmare matchup for Kemba.
Right.
In terms of being able to shut him down defensively, and any guard really comes off the bench. Not to say he'll shut Derrick Rose down, but he can do a better job than even Caruso. Do a better job containing Derrick Rose because people still don't think he has that crazy foot speed anymore, but he does it. It's even better now because he picks the spots. And Rose is tricky. Yeah, in terms of getting to where he needs to go. But I think Lonzo and Caruso will be able to make up that ground, like if Rose does get an advantage. So I think the defensive guards are who I'm definitely looking for, but particularly Lonzo, because if he has a big night, shuts down Kemba or does a good job on Kemba, and then RJ, even Evan Fournier, they're gonna put some time on him as well. So I think that's the guy I'm looking at. Lonzo have a big night, and then what I was talking about earlier with Pat, he has to hold his own versus Julius Randle. Obviously not in terms of statistical production. That's not Randle is put up some crazy numbers these days, but
and that's a big body too. I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie.
And this is matchup. It's the first test for our size. DeRozan at the 3 with Pat at the 4 and guarding an actual 4 in Randle.
That's an actual 4. Like he's nimble, right? He got spin moves left, right. Don't matter which shoulder. He's quick, but he's also powerful. So it's like I'm a little worried about Pat. I hope the coaches are giving him pep talks.
Not only that, he's so high usage. So that's the whole game. So
game, you don't get a break.
My question to you is, who do you put on Julius Randle if Pat's not in the game, or when Pat does have to rest, or if he gets in foul trouble? Right? And
definitely not Tony Bradley.
This is the kind of stuff we have to figure out, and do you go small with DeRozan, Troy Brown, like Javante?
I got one for you. Wait for the Julius Randle Alize Johnson matchup.
Oh man.
Wait till that matchup happens. I think
Control chaos.
Bull in the China shop versus Baby Rodman. That's the matchup I'm looking forward to see, even if it's for like 2 possessions.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, but do you expect anything from any of the previous Bulls members? Any heroics from D Rose or Gibson?
I don't want to put Derrick Rose in a situation where he can beat us because I think he can, and obviously he's very capable of that. So hopefully we can have the game comfortable enough where it's not that worrisome. But I actually want
Right.
to see what they do at the end of the games. Do they put Rose and Kemba, no Fournier, and then Barrett and Randall and who I gotta see their closing lineup. I'm very curious to see what they do because the I think season opener, that crazy double overtime game, D Rose finished the game over Kemba, but we'll see what they do. I mean, if Kemba has the hot end, do you go with him or go with D Rose or
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
it'll
know.
just be a flow thing. Yeah, I'm excited to see how Lonzo does, especially against some smaller guards and Rose and Kemba.
Right.
That man's foot speed. I've really been like honing in on Lonzo's footwork on defense. It is absolutely incredible. That clip I sent you yesterday, I
Man.
must have watched that clip like 32 times. There's like an acceleration and de-acceleration he's doing getting around these screens. If you like, he's literally prepping to stop himself. He stops on a
Exactly.
dime and then picks back up full speed to man. I like obviously I didn't watch a lot of Pelicans games last year for obvious reasons, but now that Alonzo's on the Bulls, like watching this man play defense is a treat.
Yeah,
Also, something
he's had so many highlights. Man, that block versus
right.
Isaiah Stewart, he bet about the apex. Man, I,
Well,
what? Point
no,
guard, you're doing this? Thank you.
no,
This is
nah, man.
crazy.
The thing is, I don't know if you've noticed, his blocks remind me of these like wind up blocks from like Hales, right? Like when someone's going for a block, it's not just like a regular block. Like he's winding all the way back,
Oh
like
yeah,
trying to
that's that
kill somebody.
volleyball, that
Yeah, that
spike.
volleyball spike. Like yeah, I just yeah, I really love Lonzo's like defensive effort and just like especially combined with his confidence that you're seeing him play with on this team. Like clearly wants to be there. He consistently said they wanted me here playing my game, so like it's the perfect marriage.
For
Um,
real.
yeah, on the same note of us talking about the test for these current Bulls and as they progress game by game, getting the games getting harder. Very curious to see how he handles all these different matchups and assignments. So yeah,
Point guard, it never stops, man. This is nonstop training
right,
point guards.
right,
And we're two this week. I mean, Kemba Walker, former All Star, Derrick Rose, former MVP. You got the
right.
next night or next game at least. Mike Conley Jr. newly minted All Star for the first time. This
Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, let's okay. Give me a prediction for the next game, and then we'll go into the Jazz game right after that.
So you said prediction for the Knicks in terms of what?
What do you expect? I mean, maybe not a score prediction, but do you expect us to win? And if so, is it a tough win or is it relatively comfortable?
I think this is going to be a cat and mouse game, chess match, whatever you want to call it, all the way from beginning to end. Like I think it's going to come down to the wire. I don't anticipate either team blowing the other out. I think there might be some small runs here and there, but I once again, just like my prediction last week, I expect Zach to actually step up, have a huge game. Um, who else am I? I expect Lonzo to have a big game. I think he's going to really be feeding off that crowd. He's probably going to have some family in the crowd. I feel like a Bulls Knicks game. It has some significance now, so I feel like
Yeah,
the players on this team are going to like actually have some family members, friends, whatnot attend this game. So that's going to give them an extra boost, just in terms of their play. So
we
yeah,
might
I
even get
think
a road Spike Lee appearance, man. It's
you
possible.
never know. You never know. You might hop on the jet and pop up in that front row. Um, I expect a small regression of DeRozan, but not from the standpoint of like, all of a sudden, oh, he's playing bad. I just think it may not necessarily be the flow for him that this night. I hope I'm wrong. Like I hope we can utilize him in whatever way we need that helps us win. But I'm expecting big games out of Lonzo and Ball. That's the same player. out of Lonzo and Zach.
Lonzo,
But the last thing I'll say about this game is I really think they need a big game out of Vooch, like a comeback season kind of game. Like,
see, now that brings me into the next game. I completely agree with the Knicks game for sure, but he has to do that versus Gobert because I think if Gobert on the flip
he needs to pick and pop him to death.
He has to, man. He has to.
Right to that bench.
Like I said, he's got to do that early where, like, you know, you can kind of go with that with the Jazz. They don't have a traditional 4 either. They start Bojan Bogdanovic there. So he's a high volume. He's going to score a lot of points in you. But Vooch can have that big game where, you know, if he's doing well versus Rudy, I don't think Hassan Whiteside's going to do much better because they have a similar profile. It's not like Whiteside's going to come in and be a little more versed on defense than Gobert. He's not as versed on defense as Gobert. So if you can have a good game early against Rudy Gobert, that's going to set the tone for us against the Jazz. Is it a home game or still a home game, right?
Let's find out.
So I was just looking at the schedule. Hold on.
Right.
That is a home game. Cool.
Okay. So next two are at home.
Yep.
Yeah, no, definitely some big tests coming up. This is going to be exciting. I don't know if you saw, but there was a Detroit and I can't remember the other team scheduled for Thursday. That game got booted. Bulls and Knicks are on NBA TV. So our first pencil in for the national or quote unquote national broadcast.
When they called up last minute pinch hit for TNT Bulls this year.
Yeah, they need to stop playing and just get the TNT Bulls back because what's the first thing we said when we talked about the schedule? It's just like, yo, what's up with the TNT Bulls? Like,
right?
No love for it. Like, come on, that's guaranteed good rating. Speaking of guaranteed, I'm a little bit worried about Charles Barkley and his guarantee.
I heard,
if we do lose, that's why. There's no other reason than that guarantee from Charles Barkley.
Wait. Which guarantee? Did I miss one? I heard him guarantee that the Bulls would be better than the Heat, finish better than the Heat. He did another one?
He guaranteed that they're going to beat the Knicks.
Really? Oh, I missed inside. I gotta watch that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He just did that tonight. Yeah. So that might be the death sentence.
No comment.
Right. We just gonna pretend that didn't happen. In honor of Joakim Knight for this Thursday game against the Knicks, we have some brief trivia questions for you. So I'm gonna see how you do. The first one's a softball. Most of these you should know, but we'll see. We'll get there quickly. So the first one, what is Joakim Noah's middle name? Have you ever heard this? I found this out 10 minutes ago when I looked it up. So
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
All right, Simon.
Really?
I would have never guessed that, but yeah, that was the first thing that showed up on Wikipedia.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
So that was a warm up. Can you name all the teams Noah played for in the NBA off the top of your head?
I should be able to play for the Bulls, the Knicks, the Grizzlies, and the Clippers.
Okay.
Am I missing anybody?
No, you got it.
Okay, I was about to say. Wait, extra points for in order? No. A little bonus?
What years was he an All-Star? What seasons?
2014, 2013. Both years, right?
Yep.
Ooh,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. What exact years did he play for the Bulls? From year he was drafted to the year he got traded.
I remember the day he was drafted. Not the exact date, but that's crazy because I had ordered delivery that night. And
what?
No, listen.
This is connected to this?
It is. So I was watching the draft and ordered delivery. And delivery guy, I think it was a pizza or something. I don't know what it was. But he gave me the food. And I told him, like, I think he either heard the draft was on, or I told him like I was watching the draft or somehow. And
you invited him in?
No, wait, I didn't go that far. But he was like, did we get somebody good? I swear.
Where were you? Are you in LA at this point?
It's Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, 2007. Okay.
2007,
okay.
yeah. So in Chicago, he was like, "Did we get somebody good?" I paused for like 2 seconds, and I was like, "Yeah, we got somebody really good. We got somebody really good."
Well, that was a prophetic moment then, because this man's getting his own night in 2 days.
Yeah, so basically that's from 2007 till 2015, I believe, was the year he got traded. Is that right?
Thought it was 16.
He got traded to 16?
Uh,
Wait, because then didn't Derrick Rose get traded 2015?
oh, right. Yeah. No, you're right.
Okay, come on, man. Come on.
No, it's like you would know. And then I guess to wrap this all up real quickly, I'm just gonna give you the floor. Any like fondest memories of Joakim as a Bull, or like what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about his career with the Bulls specifically?
Man, a lot of stuff. It's a lot of people are gonna go back to the play versus the Celtics and the 2009 playoffs, of course, the dunk. Still in the dunk, but I don't know, man. It's where I'm thinking about like a lot of former players lately, and I don't know why, but and I watched Joakim on Knuckleheads podcast. It was a great episode.
Oh yeah, I did too. Yeah,
great episode. Just real authentic. Not people will throw that out there, but like for real, he's true, and he's been that way the entire time, and
right.
Just uniquely himself, and just incredible player. Just very unique. Just how great he was as a playmaker, how switchable he was on defense, and how just I don't know, perfect leader on defense. Really, perfect leader in general.
Yeah.
The thing that stood out to me, and it's like when you always want to look at those moments when a player, or it's seemingly they were just there for the fan base the most. And I think that was that year he finished fourth in MVP, carrying that team where a lot of stuff happened, man. It was real emotional with all the stuff, all the injuries surrounding Derrick Rose and how the expectations were, especially for the players, the entire franchise, the city, how tough that might have been. But he stepped up for real, and he played. I think somebody who you can't even look back at his career and say, he maximized his potential. He maximized everything on the basketball court, and he didn't. There's no what ifs. I think there's the what ifs with the injuries to the Bulls, but there's no injury. There's no what ifs for his career in terms of personally how he maximized and what he brought every night. So, and you appreciate that. You really do.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think just to highlight the other aspect of his game, because definitely just from the basketball, the X's and O's, it's like, yeah, he's a super highly intelligent defensive player. Like you said, he definitely maximized his skill set, right? Because he didn't really do anything completely out of body, right? He may have taken, the corkscrew spin ball jump shot here and there, and for a while he was hitting that thing. Like he was doing pretty well with that, despite how it looked. He didn't care. He still had that that lefty hook that we grew to love. Like
that hook was money.
That hook was money because it was so unorthodox. You couldn't predict it.
Right.
But yeah, even with that, like he still stayed within the framework of his offensive game. He didn't do anything too crazy. But what I loved the most was that, like, not only was he the defensive anchor, but he was like their spiritual anchor, right? Like his demeanor, his attitude as that defensive anchor kind of spilled over to just like the mentality of the team. So like the first thing I think of is that Cleveland series when he's like yelling at LeBron from the bench because he's just dancing.
Right.
And Joakim just had enough. He's like, just because he's LeBron, right? He's not scared. Like he's calling him out from the bench. And it's like those types of things I think stick with your teammates, right? Where it's like, oh man, like our center's not afraid. So then you start bringing up that mentality in yourself too. So I just love how he like always led by example in like the intangible kind of ways, but then also the tangible ways.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up too, because I think it was kind of underrated for him. He got in that year that Ben Wallace season didn't work out, but he learned from him. I feel like not to say you had to teach him this, but he took that never back down mentality and ran with it. Really,
he sure was the backup to Ben Wallace,
and that was only for I think half a season. They traded him, but
to Cleveland, right?
Yeah, he took that mentality for real, and he ran with it. I don't know. I mean, he, like you said, he embodied that never back down. Like it was tough to you never really saw the Bulls at a disadvantage in terms of that. Even like they weren't the biggest team or whatever. Like they, he he definitely took that from. Hold on, now I'm checking to see if he was on the roster at that time.
You try to fact check yourself.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, he might have
your
been
own
gone.
train of thought.
Yeah, scratch that part. The last part, he might have been gone.
Erase it from the record.
Yeah, for the record on the mic.
But
okay, I'm tripping. No, he was on that team. That was 2007, 2008.
That's what I thought. Okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure you had that right. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, he's to bring it back full circle. What the first thing you said is he's just been consistent, right? He's been consistently him from the time he was even at Florida, right? He came in the same player, bow tie and everything, like.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's definitely gonna be a Bull for life. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see that on Thursday. Kind of see him reunited. I think I saw something on the Bulls website. They had different players kind of talking about their fondest memories. I don't know if you saw that, but I think Casey Johnson, he had like some stuff from Brad Miller, Kirk Heinrich, like a few different guys. So
very cool.
Yeah, definitely something to check out if you're a Bulls fan. So yeah, we got that game coming up, Utah right after, and the real quote unquote games, the real tests will just be rolling in one by one. So around this time next week, we'll talk again and we'll kind of see where the Bulls shaped up and if they're still the best team. We'll just say in the East. We'll see if they're the best team in the East, and then maybe we'll pare that down to the best team in their division. But yeah.
Did the Jazz win tonight? Do you know? Because they were, along with the Warriors, the only undefeated teams with us, obviously.
But, let's find out before we sign off.
The Jazz played, I want to say, the Nuggets, maybe? I didn't watch the second TNT game. Hence, I didn't, why I didn't check out Inside the NBA.
Oh, man, it shouldn't be this hard to find. Come on.
I was going to say, I was relying on you to find it quickly.
Right. I got thrown off by Basketball Reference. Yeah, they won.
Okay.
They won by 12.
What's our record by the next time we talk? Assuming we talk after the Celtics game on Monday.
Oh, the Bulls? What's the Bulls record?
Right.
I was about to say, I was like, I don't know about Utah. I'm not watching. The Bulls record the next time, so after the Celtics game. So that's what, 2 games?
3.
3? Okay. I'm going to go 6-1.
I like that.
I like that. I think they're going to beat New York. For some reason, I have a feeling Utah is going to get them, but then we'll beat Boston in a thriller. That's my prediction.
I think Boston's the only team that gets us, honestly, which is weird. I know.
No, that would be my second guess. Yeah, Boston's a good guess too, because it's Brown and Tatum, man. It's just you never know with those two.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can get them all, or just look. We'll just see. Let's not even put a cap on it. We'll just see what happens each game because it'll be fun games. I mean, we'll just see where we're at. Like I said, it's not indicative of the rest of the season. It's just where we're at right now. But we'll check it out.
Right. Yeah. If anything, it'll be a good learning experience for what they need to fine tune and how the coaching staff can take this team to the next level.
No, you're talking about they're gonna lose.
No, I'm creating a soft landing spot for if we have to, quantify some losses. Just if.
Fair.
It's all about creating win-win scenarios, you know.
Right. Okay.
No matter what, you can't be dejected.
That's fair.
Yeah. But cool. Yeah. Thanks for rocking with us on this second episode. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Obviously, gotta plug the site. Go check out Bulls from the Go. Spelled exactly how it sounds. bullsfromthego.com. Check out all the recaps of each game. Podcast episode is gonna be up there. Check us out on all streaming platforms wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to go to Delay Game Hoops, doghoops.com. Got a lot of content coming soon. 2022 player profiles, rookie profiles, highlight videos, and more episodes to come. Bulls from the Go.